Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fox Fever. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys have had a great weekend. You ask me, I don't think it could have gone much better. Town win. We're very much alive in this somewhat promotion pack. Coming home yesterday, whacking on FIFA, doing the bronze upgrade thing. Packed Omar Bogle, which made my day even better. I wish I packed Danny Rose in there as well, but a Bogle will do. And look, it's not really these intros and what my life gets up to gets weirder by the day. But 3 points for my football club. Absolutely buzzing. We're joined by Luke, who looks pretty smug. I can't lie. Another week. Another week. Again, another game in which MK Dons have failed to win. They didn't lose this time though, but it might as well have been a loss with some of the things you were coming out yesterday. How was the mood today? Because you were far from impressed in the chat last night. That's safe to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not feeling any better, to be honest. I'm still livid. I think any draw against Tranmere Rovers in their current state, that's a loss, especially for a club like ours. And I'm sure we'll get into that shortly.
A club like ours, right? Let's talk through it. We'll start with their teams. We'll just jump straight into it. Talk us through it. 1-1 draw. Saw that Danilo Orsi scored. I mean, yeah, good on him. He conceded to Tranmere, albeit by a penalty, but it's still a goal conceded to them. It doesn't help that you're not in the best of form at the moment. Far from it. What's somewhat the overriding emotion at the minute, especially after probably a result like that, where you probably look at it and you think, right, okay, if we're serious, we've got to be taking 3 points off of these lot.
I mean, the mild way of putting it would be frustration. I've sort of split the season up a little bit into certain sections of games, and I was looking at these last few fixtures we've had Bromley, we've had Barrow, and now we've had Tranmere. I think any team in the top half would probably expect 9 points from those 3 games, and we've come away with 1. Obviously, we're not in the top half, and that's probably something to do with the fact that we didn't get results in those games. But I mean, even in isolation, this Tranmere result is awful. There's no other way of putting it. I mean, oh yeah, well done. We went ahead, as you'd expect. But I mean, beyond that, we've ended up sitting back. And Scott Lindsey has correctly identified, like an absolute genius, he has identified that we started to step back. So his solution to this is to then bring on another defender instead of and bring off his striker and change the formation to a back five. I don't know what he's thinking. To be honest, it is a baffling decision through and through. If you've got a team that's sitting back and you want them to not sit back, the last thing you do is bring on another player to sit at the back. It's common sense. I mean, what Scott Lindsey has done there is the tactical equivalent of using petrol to put out a fire. And that's the only way I can put it. Yeah, it's just awful. All he had to do, he had the players at his disposal. We've got Tommy O'Reilly, fantastic runner, prepared to run at people. Would have been an easy player to bring on. Someone like Callum Hendry, again, very good off the ball. Even someone like Aaron Domain, someone that you can just send him behind for one through ball and he's gone. We had all these options. Instead, we decided to sit back on a 1-0 lead against one of the poorest sides in the division. And within 6 or 7 minutes after making our subs, they get themselves a penalty and, of course, a goal to go with it.
What's that sort of down to? I think your recent games, or especially this one. Is that Lindsey? Is it the players? I mean, where do you sort of stand with Lindsey? Because I've seen quite a few MK fans questioning his position at the minute, and I somewhat get it because I mean this run of results and the fact that he's 16th in the table, especially if we're looking at pre-season optimism, where that squad has to be making top 3. He's 16th, 31 games played, and you're losing ground very quickly. I mean, there's factors in it, but I'm just more looking at it recently, probably with like this Tranmere result and a couple of others. Who's sort of like to blame if that's even the right thing? 'Cause I'm
I
not
mean,
sure.
I think there's numerous factors to it. I think for a squad with the quality that we have at our disposal, there would have to be a number of things wrong for it to be quite this wrong. If you see where I'm coming from. I mean, up until these last 3 games, I wouldn't have been able to question Lindsey at all, to be honest. I mean, there's been 1 or 2 questionable games. I think the Notts County one was a little bit strange with some of the tactical decisions, but beyond that, you could kind of accept, okay, we're transitioning, cool, whatever. But then you go against a side like Bromley, a side that's only just settling into the EFL. I don't think you have that excuse. You go into a game like Barrow, who are also in transition and probably a weaker side. You can't have that excuse there. You then go into Tranmere, who are in absolute freefall. There's just no chance. That's not an excuse. It just doesn't work. And I think these last 3 games, I would put more onto Lindsey. I think he's sort of trying anything at this point. He's not getting the tune that he's maybe hoping for out of the players, but you then hear all the player interviews, all the rest of it. At the same time, I don't think he's actually lost the dressing room. They seem to be on his side still, so it's a very strange one. I can't necessarily put a finger on one specific thing and say, look, this is it. But at the same time, it. I know. I think in the last episode I was on, I was saying, okay, we need to stabilize a little bit and actually keep things constant. But with some of these tactical blunders at the minute, I'm kind of at a point where what, I wouldn't actually mind if Lindsey went. I'm just kind of at that point. There's being in transition, and then there's whatever we've just seen over the last 3 games.
But then you're probably looking at the fact that MK Dons potentially on their third. Let's say you got rid of Lindsey tomorrow. Probably won't happen. I'll be amazed if it does happen. To be honest, I know there's probably some arguments you could make for it that could, but I'd be surprised. I think. What if you just look at it now? Like what who should you bring in? Because you probably see the squad. I think I'm not sure if I think playoffs are very nearly gone already. I think we're getting to that point.
The season's done for us, realistically, at this point.
I think so. I think, look, you're 10 points adrift as it is. It's still doable. I mean, you take a page out of Doncaster's book, but you need to, first of all, put an arrest to this sort of run, but also massively build on that and 15 games to it. But let's say, Lindsey went tomorrow. What sort of options are you looking at? I just think at the minute I don't know. I just think it'll be mad to sack him, but I get the argument, if I'm going to be honest.
Well, yeah, it's one of them for me. Like, I can absolutely, like, don't get me wrong, I actually really like Lindsey, but it's kind of one of those. It's a results based business at the same time. It's a case of I wouldn't mind if he stayed, I wouldn't mind if he went. At the minute, I think the name that would be most obvious, probably Ian Evatt. He's quite close with our CEO, Neil Hart. So the logical step would be to follow him from Bolton. Beyond that, I've not done much research into that specifically, so I wouldn't be able to give you many more names at this stage. And I think being realistic, if he's not gonna get sacked after a result like that, it's probably not coming. And I think we're just going to try and ride the storm and build into next season. But I mean, we'll see what happens. But I think this season is a write-off, realistically.
Let's say Evatt did come in, and let's hope he's not telling fans to F off. Or not like there's many there to tell that to, mind, but...
Our attendances are perfectly normal for this level. We just have a beautiful stadium.
Okay. What did you make of Tranmere? I was going to make some sort of a joke, but just on them, just what did you maybe see? Just very quickly before you move on, what maybe did you see from them?
I mean, I think there probably was a bit more fight than I think they've maybe seen in previous games. I don't think they were necessarily where they wanted to be, and I think if they were up against anyone other than us, they probably still would have lost. But I don't know. I don't think it's a life-saving result for them at all. I still don't think things are really changing for them. Until they can get a win against someone, which is pretty much the same boat we're in. Until you get a win against someone, nothing's going to change.
It didn't even feel like much anyway, for the fact that they sort of drew, and then Morecambe won. So it sort of actually shortened the gap slightly as well. So it's still not a good look for them. Although, I mean, they scored mine, but it was from the penalty spot. But yeah, the problem's still there. We can go on for ages about Tranmere, but we've done so too much. Of course, quickly before we do move on, of course, it was you against Jack in the FTF League table. And of course, a point apiece for 1-1 draw. You go from the highs of 5th to 5th.
How are we bottom of this, man? I don't understand.
Because you're absolutely terrible. You say that like you haven't beaten us. Yeah. For God's sake.
Genuinely, beginning of the season, I would have laughed at you if you told me we weren't going to be first in this. We're just looking at the teams, not meaning any disrespect, of course, but I think the expectation for us would have been top 3. I don't think anyone's disputing that. I think the highest of anyone else here in terms of expectation is probably playoffs, realistically.
Yeah, absolutely miles off it, like you are. In this, I mean, look, you and Jack have played 6. Jake has played 7, so he's only got one more game. Kieran with the 5, and we've still got all 4 to play yet. So that could be a really interesting run-in, especially from some of the conversations we've had, where some of the fixtures are in the calendar. It's just nice to see MK Bob or something again. If it's not, I mean, look, 16th in League Two is not too bad either. Look, I don't mind it, and I'm all for it. Good all round. Right, we'll talk about us because we had a pretty good result at the weekend. Before we look at some of the other teams, I'm not going to speak much about the game. If I'm going to be honest, Grimsby went to Doncaster and absolutely schooled them for the best part of 80 minutes, or like 70, 80 minutes. I think, there wasn't really much to separate in the first 10 minutes, but I think after that, we've really got onto them. I thought we absolutely dominated the midfield battle. We pressed on them really, with pace and energy. And I think the goals are 2 bits of class, but probably not. It's certainly not a game that Joe Alowu would want to look back. We've one of the best defenders in the league this season. He had an absolute horror show. It's that lovely that first goal, just that ball through to Rose, and then just that touch from the B crew just to take it away from Alowu and the finish. Absolutely superb from him. I was banging the drum the other week as to, give him games. He scores goals. We're now nearly at a point where he's on a goal again. So, and there was a lot of talk. I remember there was a lot of talk in the summer when we brought him back. There was a lot of fans going on about how this was a panic signing. It was anything but. I knew this wasn't a panic signing. If he's right for Artel, he's right for me. And I don't even think he did too badly. He got a few goals last season. I think there were sides to his game in which he was really lacking. But it's understandable because he's a young player on his first loan spell. This season, you really look at him, he's really growing up. He's really proven it as to how Coventry really rate him. And I tell you what, that partnership he's got going with Rose up front at the minute is working like an absolute treat. I just thought we took control of the game, and then it was really nice as well just to get that second goal just minutes after half time as well, after missing what was a blatant penalty, by the way. I'm amazed that a pen wasn't given on Rose before that. I mean, he's absolutely nowhere near the ball and just absolutely takes him out. But I mean, look, the pass from Green just and that the footwork from Svan Thorson. I really wish it was a goal. I think that move, the way he somewhat took men on and sort of just tried to squeeze it under him, I think that should have deserving of a goal. But it did come off Alowu, unfortunately. But that was absolutely terrific from him. And again, he absolutely played off his socks. He was terrific again yesterday. And you're really starting to see why we signed him. He's really grown into his own now, which is really pleasing. I think George McEachran deserves a mention as well. He was phenomenal yesterday. Of course, we did what typical Grimsby do, and we made it difficult in the last 10 minutes. There's not really much you can do with the goal, and we sort of had to weather a little bit of a storm near the end. But honestly, I think 2-1 flattered them. I think we were deserving of the 3 points by a long shot, and yeah, that away end yesterday was unbelievable. Nearly 3,000 there yesterday. I think we probably saw that game. We saw yesterday. Yes, localish rivals. And of course, Donny doing slightly better than we at the minute. But to go to a place like that and, to perform the way we did there, that's a sign of a team that's going for promotion. And we are in the mix. And I'm not having anyone saying that we're not. And it's what the fans deserve. We've gone in my lifetime. I have seen pretty much half and half. Half of struggling in League Two. Just not saying like trying to survive constantly, but just sort of around like 15th, 16th, 17th, not really doing anything. And then we've had spells in non-league, in which a club like ours should never be in that league. And I hope we've seen the last of that league. I'm genuinely excited of what we can do going forward. Look, with 3 games we've won in a row. We picked up 10 points out of a possible 12, which is great. We're finding consistency now. We need to keep that going. We've got Fleetwood next week. We need to keep that going. But I want to take your mind back. I think it's a year tomorrow. We played Doncaster at Blundell Park. We lost 5-1. Now, that was a horrible day for so many different reasons. It was another year in which we were staring the National League in the face again. And if David Artell lost his job after that, I don't think anyone would have complained. I certainly wouldn't have complained. Because we was on this run in which I think you're pointing the fingers as much as the players were absolutely important at the time. The way we were being set up and the way that we was trying to drill things, a lot of it has to go on his shoulders. And it was a horrible day, and I was low after that. But we fast forward a year, and the change is unbelievable. We are a completely different side to what we were 12 months ago. Artell alluded to it perfectly, I think, in his interview yesterday. We lost 5-1 to Doncaster. We got we failed. We failed miserably. Earlier in the season, we lost 3-0 to Doncaster. That's at Blundell Park. We failed, but his words, we failed better. This year, or this time round, pretty much exactly a year on, we've gone to Doncaster, another side going for promotion, easily in part of the top 3 conversations. And we've dictated play and we've absolutely ran the show when we've picked up 3 points on their own backyard. The job he's done is unbelievable. And yet I think I still see some, not many, I think they've all gone pretty quiet, but I still see some still doubt this man. He is the most exciting thing I've seen with us as a Football League side for quite a long time. Let him build. If it's not this year, in a couple of years' time, I think we'll do it. I think we'll be there. And it's just ticking off like different things as well, like different records. Right, okay, we haven't beaten Bradford in so many years. We've done that. We haven't won at Tranmere for so long. We've done that. We needed to just do other stuff as well. The highest I've seen in the Football League is it 11th a couple of years ago, and we've sort of made 9th place our own at the minute. I know this is going on a little bit, but I'm genuinely in awe with what we've done in the space of 12 months. But we've got to keep it going. We're nowhere near done yet, and of course results around us. With Salford losing, with Crewe dropping points again. We're 1 point out of the playoff spots. This is unfamiliar territory for us, certainly for me. And And it's such a breath of fresh air. We've got something to believe in, and the squad looks so united. And we've got a big 15 games coming up, and I genuinely believe it's possible. I genuinely believe it. But look, there's a lot of twists and turns to come. And also for Doncaster, they've got Harry Clifton now. Yeah, they can keep him. They can keep him. I think some of the chants was interesting yesterday. I neither sang songs about him or booed him, neither cheered or booed. But he plays for Doncaster. I don't care. I just saw him as an opposition player. I still have that sort of respect for him coming through our academy and all that stuff and playing so many games for us. But I'll never call him, a certain word that some did yesterday. I just thought it was a bit weird. But no, what a day! What a day! I've spoke a bit. What did you make of it? Just because you said you somewhat saw a little bit of the game.
Yeah, no, I saw a little bit of that. It was obviously one of the early kickoffs, and I was impressed, and I mean, it's testament to Artel with the progress you guys have made, and I mean that's the one argument I've always sort of been saying with Lindsey at Dons is like, right, look, give him time, it won't come instantly. You can't expect instant success. But you've got to allow them to build their project, and I think you're finally starting to see the fruits of that. As you say, even if it's not this season, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like next season. And going to a top side and winning, especially a side that you haven't done well against in recent years, it's just a brilliant result for you guys. There's no other way of looking at it. From a Doncaster perspective, I think this is starting to niggle away at them now. This home form, they've dropped points too many times recently at home. Not to us, but then that's kind of a given at the minute. But to plenty of other sides, and if they'd made that place a fortress, they'd probably be pushing for top spot at the minute. But they haven't, and instead they find themselves in that sort of mixier area. With all these other sort of playoff hopefuls, and they're making life difficult for themselves in that respect. That they have to be better at home. You play 23 of your games there. That's half of your games are played on that pitch, in that ground. They've got to be doing better.
I was really surprised with how they somewhat turned out yesterday. I thought they were poor, but I also thought a large reason was actually down to us. But it's the fact that they had a couple of, first 10, 15 minutes, they had a few shots outside the box, which were straight down Jordan Wright's throat. Clifton had that one from outside the box, which brought off a decent save from him, which heart in my mouth. I didn't want him to score. But yeah, and then I never really felt threatened. Like they were really trying hard to push on near the end. I mean, that the goal just came out of nothing. To be quite honest, I didn't really see it coming. It's another goal involvement for Luke Molyneux, mind. But again, just didn't really felt worried. Like, and that's a nice feeling coming from a town perspective. But I can't lie, I expected more from them. And then, look, a couple of defeats for them on the trot, especially after losing to Chesterfield. I think in the manner as well, conceding 5 there. They've had a couple of defeats now. They go to Morecambe in the week, in which they need a response pretty quickly. But look, what a day! What a day! That's all I can say on that. And long may this run continue. Let's have a look at some of the other games, a bit more important. So we obviously saw the game on Thursday with Port Vale and Notts County. Port Vale coming away with that in the 85th minute with 3 points from Ronan Curtis's goal. I thought Notts County had a lot of chances. I thought they had some good chances, especially first half. And then the goal, if you're a Notts County fan, I think you're really disappointed with the goal. I think from Bass, and I think it just sort of looked like the defender just sort of stared at it. It just, as Curtis, you just sort of guided it in. I think Notts will be disappointed, but equally saying it's big for Port Vale. You look at the teams around them. Port Vale are now on 52 points, so a point behind Notts County with 53. Bradford are on 54 in third. I mean, you've got Wimbledon on 55. in second. And as well, you're looking at it as well. Doncaster 6 on 52. It's all very close, and it's results like that I think could go a long way. So just a big one for Port Vale. That's all I can really say. Very much in this promotion battle.
Oh yeah, no, they are. They really needed that one. If you flip that result and it's a Notts win, suddenly you're thinking, oh, okay, maybe they're more in that sort of chasing pack, and it gets a little bit more mixy, like I was saying with Doncaster. But instead, they've pulled off the result. It wasn't necessarily the most convincing, and they've had to grind it out a little bit at home against a very strong Notts side, to be fair. But they're just keeping themselves in the mix, and that's the important thing at this stage. I think we're yet to see a team I think there's going to be someone that puts a run together still. Our Walsall did it very, very early, and they're sort of coming off of it a little bit now. I know they got their win, so I'm not sure whether they'll start picking up those wins again now. But I do think there'll be someone that finds a bit of consistency towards the end of the season, and by getting a result like that, I mean that could easily be the catalyst to go on that sort of run. For all you know, it's a good momentum killer for Notts, and it obviously brings a lot of momentum forward for Port Vale.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at it as well. Notts County possess the best away form in the league. They haven't won the most games away in the league. That is us. 80 wins, by the way, away from home. I know we've just skipped time, but we only won twice last year. We've won 8 this year. Jesus, wow, progress. But no, look, Notts County at top of that away form table. Port Vale with a close second only on goal difference. But yeah, it's terrific for them. I don't think there's any panic stations for Notts County, if I'm going to be honest. That's their first defeat in quite a while since they lost to Walsall back on New Year's Day. I don't think there's much panic, but they're doing, you look at their next couple of games, have got back-to-back home games coming up against Colchester and Tranmere. Colchester might be a difficult nut to crack, but you certainly look at Tranmere straight away, yeah, winnable. But yeah, I still back them for top 3, to be quite honest. I think they're that good. It just seemed, and it just looked like one of those nights. If I'm going to be honest, barring taking nothing away from Port Vale.
Well, I mean, the performance was there with Notts, wasn't it? The performance was there. Just the result didn't quite come with it. Didn't have the quality on the night. And over the course of the season, you're going to have a couple of those days. So I'm not particularly worried about it as long as the group stays strong mentally and they use their next couple of games to bounce back, which I'm sure they will. Looking at those games, as you say. I'd still back them to get top 3. For me, they're probably my outside chance at getting the title at this point, to be fair.
Yeah, we'll touch on that as well, because Walsall won. I think it's been a little bit of time now. Without a win in 6, and they've beaten Chesterfield by 3-1. I was actually surprised somewhat, because I think I was sort of looking at it in the weeks, like on their day, I think Chesterfield could turn over anyone. They've certainly got the firepower to do that. But it also felt like a result that was needed, I think, as well to put an arrest to that form, to make sure they're somewhat back in contention, somewhat back in the ascendancy, so to speak. Of course, with Notts County losing, with Bradford dropping points, I mean, you've got AFC Wimbledon creaking up behind them. It must be great seeing AFC Wimbledon right up there in this promotion battle. I can't lie, but I mean, you've got a smile on your face.
It's just funny. Let them have their little moment. Let them have it. It's funny.
I just feel Chesterfield are a little bit like Town at times. I think they're just a bit inconsistent, and that might be the reason why they might not make the playoffs at the end of it. But certainly much needed for Walsall. That's all I can say. I think you look at it, and a goal for Ellis Harrison, a goal for Jamil Matt, both their strikers scoring. So there's that element to it. And I saw that Paul Cook was a little bit upset after the game as to somewhat how they folded, I think it was, or something like that. I think it looked like there was more shell shocked, if anything. But yeah, look, 38% of the ball for Walsall, another home win for them. I think it's maybe I do think it's maybe calmed one or two nerves. I'll be honest, just from that. Still a bit to go, but certainly in terms of right, okay, they've got that win now. Hopefully, that's the end of that little spell.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it's come against decent opposition as well. I think if I'd looked at those last two games, on one of the previous pods, we were looking at it and saying, oh yeah, that Gillingham game, that has to be a win, and then you maybe get some kind of result against Chesterfield. In the end, it's sort of come the other way around, but 4 points from those two games, you don't mind it just to get yourselves back on track. And you got a couple of quote unquote nicer games coming up as well. It just gives them that nice little bit of platform, and I feel like that was a more familiar Walsall performance. You're quoting some of the stats there. Not much possession, but a lot of fight, and they used the entirety of the 90 minutes to their advantage because they are a physically fit side, and they've made the most of that, and Chesterfield just couldn't cope with it. So fair play, they're back on track.
You was right when you said that they have a little bit of a favourable run coming up. I mean, look, the next few games got Walsall away. Walsall away. Yes, they are away. They're at Morecambe. They're also away at Cheltenham, and then they've got Swindon at home, and then they make the trip to Carlisle. I mean, two of those sides are in the bottom two, and you got Cheltenham a bit hit and miss, and Swindon, I mean, had defeat yesterday, but have generally picked up under Ian Holloway. But you certainly fancy your chances. You'd certainly, I think, if you're a Walsall fan looking from at those 4 games, you're probably targeting at least 10 points, to be quite honest. They might find, they might get unstuck at maybe somewhere like a Carlisle, actually. That's a might, although that'll be interesting if it does happen. But certainly nothing to fear, I think, in the next 4 games. Just pick up some more momentum going up, especially after that win. Yeah, I've mentioned Chesterfield. Another defeat for them. I was coming off after a good win against Doncaster. Yes, we get that they've had injuries and all that, but they're just a bit inconsistent, I think, as well. They're a little bit like us, and I think the gap is ever increasing. I think they have a game in hand over us, but and look, there's still 15, 16 games to go, so still gonna happen. But yeah, the more time goes on, I'm not sure, to be honest, with Chesterfield. Now, that's just a personal opinion.
I mean, it's hard to argue. I mean, personally, I've been sort of on the fence about them all season. I've had a couple of comments before from Chesterfield fans saying, "Oh, come on, back us a bit more." But for me, I don't think they've got the whole squad they necessarily need. I mean, I like the rebuild they tried to do with the defence in January. I think they immediately had the setback with, I think it was McFadzean out for the season straight away, or was certainly one of them at least. And with all the injuries they've had, they're still doing a reasonable job. I just don't necessarily think they've got that grit in them to sort of consistently push towards the end of the season when it matters most. And for me, I think they've only really got one way of beating teams, and that's just by, right, we're going to outscore you. They're not going to defend, keep a clean sheet, and have a sort of grueling 1-0. That's not really what Chesterfield seem to do. I mean, they're free scoring when they want to be, but you have to have that other side to your game as well, and I don't think they've necessarily got that.
Yeah, I probably agree that. I did mention the fact that they can absolutely murder teams at times. I mean, 49 goals they've scored this season. I think that is the most other than Walsall, who scored 10 more than them. But probably not so much recently. But there are factors. I get there's factors, but you just know next year, especially if they don't make it, they're going to be right up there again. It's just with the money and backing it, what they've got, the squad they've got. It could be an interesting one, but there's still time. You never know. I like to think there's time for Grimsby to do it, and we pick them to it. But there's a big ask, I think, with some of the teams. Let's have a look at. Let's move away from that. I really wanted to look at Morecambe Accrington, I think me and Kieran looked at this game on in the week, and I think I made the conclusion that I think you look at some of Morecambe's next few games. They've got Doncaster next, then they've got Walsall, Gillingham, AFC Wimbledon, MK Dons. I mean, the MK Dons game might not be a problem, but certainly, some of those other games. I think this would have been a game in which Derek Adams would be banging the drum on the most, for the fact that there's a realist. They're at home, and there's a realistic 3 points against a side that are near him. And if they're not careful, I think they probably are, to an extent, very much in this relegation battle as well. And then, a 2-0 win at home to Accrington. It's 3 points to them. It shortens the gap on Tranmere to only 2 points. They played the same amount of games. Accrington are only 4 points clear of them as well. So there's a chance that they could be there in this, and they're not overly safe yet. I always fancied Morecambe going into this game, and that's exactly what they've done. It just felt like a very Morecambe result, and one that just Derek Adams would have taken, I think, more somewhat serious. I say seriously, like, he's doing this as part of a joke. It's not. It's just where Morecambe are at the moment. But I think he probably looked at the fixtures, and he probably looked at a game like this in particular. I think, we need points there, and that's exactly what they've done, which is good on them.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this was crucial, absolutely crucial. They lose that game, and it's another team that's just sort of gone. That's pulled away from them. By winning that game, Morecambe have, well, not only have they closed the gap to Accrington, they've put themselves within range of potentially not being in the relegation zone, which is the entire point of all of it. Don't end up in the bottom two spots. And they're just giving themselves a fighting chance. They do have difficult games coming up, but at that end of the table, you're not going to have teams going on ridiculous runs, because if you do, then they end up mid-table and they're called Swindon. That these teams are going to be around there. They're only going to pick up a point here, maybe a 3 there. It's not going to come naturally to them. There's not going to be any sort of rhythm. It's just who can grind out the most results. And to be fair to Morecambe, if you're going to grind out a result like that, why not do it against someone that's in that battle with you? And as long as you give yourself a fighting chance, which they have, they could do it. They could still do it. I'm not necessarily convinced. I'd need to see it against someone that isn't Accrington, but they're just keeping themselves in the fight.
I still fancy them more than Tranmere at present. That's just my opinion. I think it's probably, and I think there's a few pointers you can make from that. Obviously, with Tranmere's plight and the fact that they're still sticking with Nigel Atkins, which is mad. It's just the fact, I think Derek Adams knows how to get a team like this out of it. If he drags Morecambe out of it, I honestly think he should be in a shout for manager of the season. I think he deserves a mention. I don't think he'll win it, because I think you probably look at the likes of Matt Sadler. They've done incredibly well at Walsall, all things considering, and a couple of others. But I definitely think he deserves a mention. I think for all the adversity, all the problems that Morecambe have gone through with their squad and everything as well stuff off the pitch, which, God forbid, hope that gets sorted. But it'd be big for them. It would be big, and it's sort of and now you're Accrington. It's an awful result, because you're looking over your shoulder again, where maybe if you looked at it a couple of weeks ago, you might not have felt that, to be quite honest. I think because they've had a few wins in that time. I did see a tweet from Jack earlier, actually, in which I wanted to mention Tranmere. They've won twice in their last 15 matches. Morecambe have won 5 in their last 5. Morecambe have won 5 in their last 5. They'd be way out of it if they did that. Morecambe have won twice in their last 5. I know it doesn't sound like really much, but it's still something that they can get wins in maybe in short amount of time, compared to Tranmere, who can't buy a win at the minute.
Yeah, even when you add Accrington to that mix, Accrington have gone 5 without a win now as well.
Mm,
So any kind of momentum you can get, even if it's small, just that one win, just that 3 points anywhere. It's huge at that end of the table.
yeah, absolutely. My only problem now is, as I've mentioned before, I think Morecambe have a really set of difficult fixtures coming up. With Doncaster, they've got a point to prove after 2 defeats. Walsall are obviously right up there. Gillingham, with their recent run, I think it's probably doable, to be quite honest. They're away from home now, so it might be a tricky one. AFC Wimbledon obviously flying high, right at the top end of the table, and then MK Dons to come after that, which might be 3 points, which will be the creme de la creme. It'd be absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, huge for them. There's not really much more to be said. I wanted to look at who did I wanted to look at? Yeah, I mean, look, AFC Wimbledon won. They beat Salford. I think the goal probably shouldn't have stood. I think there was a foul in the.
That was a blatant foul.
The
Why am
foul
I not
there.
surprised?
The
Why
goal.
am I not surprised? That is them
Another
all
goal for
over.
another goal for Matty Stevens. Their second. Yeah, they're not going away either. Big for them.
Yeah, no, it's a big result. To be fair, I can't argue with that. And again, it's just another team grinding out results, keeping things in the mix, and they're doing exactly what Doncaster haven't done when I was talking about it earlier. They just don't lose at home. Get points at home. Is all you got to do sometimes. If you can guarantee yourself points at home and then you pick up the odd point away, you're fine. You
They beat
know that
Grimsby every day, so what does that say about us? Up the away day Mariners.
unstoppable there.
Only big
But
teams
no,
can
I mean with AFC, they're it is that home form that does carry them through, and that yeah, I just can't really argue too much of it. They're playing relatively well. Then not the flashiest at teams or anything like that, but they will grind out results. They're awkward. They're very physical, and in League Two that will work. Looking at their next couple, in fact, yeah, they've got a favourable run actually. Fleetwood away, Colchester away, Bromley home, Morecambe away. That I don't think they'll necessarily get 12 from that, but 12 would be realistic. To be fair, I don't. Maybe 10 because if you're pulling off 4 wins in a row at this level, you're kind of flying away. But no, they're on a decent run. I think they'll keep it going. To be fair.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at those fixtures. I think 12. If they get 12, that's unbelievable. But I think he's pushing it. You'd probably expect him to go to Fleetwood and get a result. Well, it depends what type of Fleetwood team turn up again, or another side hit.
The brilliant Fleetwood or the awful one.
Yeah, it'll be one I'm watching. With us playing Fleetwood next week, so it'll be one that I'll keep a close eye on. Colchester, the away there might have a few problems there with how they set up.
Low scoring.
Again with Bromley, but they're at home, so they'll certainly fancy themselves, and they might get 1 or 2 problems at Morecambe. Well, I think we'll have to see from that, but I do think it might be. You do expect them to probably win that anyway, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's completely out of the question that they can do that, but I think 8 maybe. I think 8 might be a good return.
Well, yeah, you put it this way, you wouldn't expect to lose any of those fixtures. At a bare minimum, you just want to keep the unbeaten run going. It's about momentum, isn't it? At the end of the day, we keep going back to it, but that is the all-important thing. If you're not losing, you're still moving forward. And that's all they need to do, essentially.
Yeah, I'm glad Salford lost because they're one of the teams that we're trying to catch. We've got to a point now where I'm sort of hoping on a few teams' downfall, Salford being one, because I kind of want what you're fighting for as well, which again makes a nice change at the top end of the table. But yeah, I mean, look, just the 1 win in 7 for them, and that was against Tranmere. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly not promotion or even playoff form, so to speak. I think it was always going to be a difficult ask to go to Wimbledon and get a win there. It's been a difficult ask for most teams this year, other than the odd couple wasn't Walsall. I have to mention it again. But yeah, I don't know. I think they could do with a couple of wins. And you see their next couple of games. We've got Port Vale coming up. Bradford, they're at home for that one now. Swindon, Crewe, Chesterfield. I mean, some difficult fixtures there against teams that are fighting for something.
I mean, in a way, it can play into their hands, though, because these are the sort of fixtures you win and suddenly you're right by them. Because the table is that close at the minute. You go and beat a Port Vale, you're right up on their tails. It only takes a couple of results here or there, and the table looks totally different. It's been a bonkers season in that regard.
It is, and it's certainly not been a patch on last year. But I think you probably sort of knew what teams were going to be up there in the mix, and then this year, like who'd have thought Walsall will be top of the table? We're talking about 100 points at one stage. Walsall, I don't think that'll happen now, but yeah, that was. I mean, look, Wimbledon in second. I think yeah, I didn't expect top three. Look, the fact that Grimsby are in this promotion, I keep banging on about it. This is going to hit so hard in a few weeks' time, where we've lost like 3 in a row, and we're down to 11th or something, and the playoff dream is over. Just let me dream. It's the first time I've seen this. But yeah, it's been a weirdly awful but good year this season so far, with a lot more turns to come. And yeah, look, Salford, I think they play Crewe in that time, so that could be huge as well. But yeah, they get a few wins here and there, they're right in the conversation as well. Bradford are right in the conversation as well. They drew with Newport yesterday, goalless, and they spent the best part of that game with 10 men. It was a Jack Shepherd that got a red card. But this is a Newport side in which have somewhat been they've picked up as of late. 10 points out of their last 4. They've got another point here. They're unbeaten in 5. I'm just looking at it now. I mean, Newport has 72% of the ball. I get they were playing Bradford. They've clearly had a bit of a good run recently, and they've shooted their way up into the automatic contention. But I think maybe with their run, it's maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity for 3 points with the fact that Bradford have played with 10 men for the best part of 75 minutes. I just get that impression. I don't think it's a terrible point for Bradford at all. I think they'll probably take that considering the circumstances, but that's just how I see it.
Oh yeah, no, it by far it's a better point for Bradford. They're faced with adversity for however long for to get in that game, and they've still come away with something. They haven't lost, and again, that's the crucial thing, especially when you're going away. From a Newport perspective, that's just not cutting it for me. When you're up against 10 men for that long, especially at home, you have to do something. And although they've been, fair play to them, they've been on a decent run. But it's for me, it's apart from the Crewe game, I still don't think it's necessarily the most convincing. They beat Barrow by 1 goal, Morecambe by 1 goal, Carlisle by 1 goal. They've played however long against Bradford with 10 men, and they haven't scored. I can't see that run sustaining with that level of performance unless they can pull out another performance like they did against Crewe. I don't think they can sustain it. If we're being honest, they're going to come back off it. They've done enough to protect themselves from any kind of relegation battle, which was the important thing. And I think they can start potentially looking towards next season. Well, obviously not quite immediately. There's still plenty of football to be played, but they're not going to be overly worried about the results at that point, I don't think.
I'd look at the games that they have taken points from and the wins by. The Barrow game, they won the game with an own goal. It looked like Barrow were much the better side for most of that. I look at the Carlisle game, they've won by a goal. Good finish from Puddle in mind. But Carlisle was so wasteful, as we've probably seen Carlisle at times as well. And on another day, it maybe could have been different, that result. I mean, they've certainly, they're beating Carlisle and they're beating Morecambe. They're beating the 2 teams in the bottom 2. And they picked up a really good win from Crewe. And I think from judging from Kieran, that they capitalised on mistakes, and they look like they put up a decent display from there. from that one, and that's a really good away victory. But yeah, and they drew with Salford before that as well. They finished with 10 men, albeit they only played with 10 men for 15 minutes. I mean, look, win's a win at the end of the day, and that's something what they have been doing. But yeah, like I said, I just feel like it's a better point for Bradford. I think, you're at home, 75 minutes, and they've not managed to find a way to break. I think that's maybe what Bradford might have done. Might have just decided, right, okay, let's try and keep it as nice and tight as possible. And we know Bradford can do that. I think you probably look at some of their results and, the way they've played. I think they're certainly capable, certainly grinding out of results. I think maybe a couple of questions have maybe been asked away from home, but only a few. I don't think it's anything to be alarmed about or anything like that. It's probably because their home form has been so good. But just to just maybe just improve that a tad bit away from home. I'm intrigued to see what their away record actually is. But yeah, as I've mentioned, I can't help but feel it's a better point for Bradford than it is for Newport, and it still keeps them, it keeps them third. They're in the top three. They're in the autos, and they're still alive in this promotion in this title race. But I think I think with a lot of these sides, as long as they get promoted, I don't think they really care. I still think it's Walsall's to lose. Their away record, I think the 14th they picked up 15 points in 15 games. So it's near enough in the middle. So yeah, maybe if they get a couple more wins away from that, but yeah, I think fair enough. It's a point on the road. What could be a bit of a difficult place to go. It's a long way as well. They've travelled a fair bit.
Yeah, it is needs. It's needs must. They're 10 men for that long. They've still come away with something. That's all you can really ask for. If they had managed to sneak a win, it would have been considered an outstanding result. They haven't. It's still solid in my eyes.
Absolutely, and I can move on now. I'll have a quick skim through the other games. Cheltenham played a very good game with Barrow. Barrow were 2-0 up, and they ballsed it up. Cheltenham, I get that Cheltenham are pretty good at home, but I think if you 2-0 up, I think you've got to see the game out there. I know the old cliche is 2-0's a dangerous scoreline, and it proved to be the case. Cheltenham, I mean, look, they're fourth in the home table, so it's clearly a tough place to go. But I mean, just looking at their result just on face value, I mean, Barrow really shot themselves in the foot with them being 2 up and not coming away with a point at the very least for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no good excuse to throw away a 2-0 lead. I mean, yes, Cheltenham are a good side, but they're not like the top of the table world beaters or anything like that, are they? That's the sort of game that you should have the quality or at least the grit, the determination to hold on to a result like that, and they just don't. Like, I don't think they were necessarily convincing when they beat us either, Barrow. For me, they're not a particularly strong side. I think that momentum-wise, that's going to kill them off. Well, actually, they've got Crewe next, and Crewe are kind of all over the place at the minute. So I think that's going to end up being a bit of a pivotal game for different reasons, obviously for both sides. But I mean, it's poor from Barrow. There's no getting away from that.
I think that result also indicates where they are at the moment. I think you probably look at their fixtures. I mean, at the minute, it's either they win a couple, or they lose a couple. That's generally been them at the minute.
That's what you expect from transition sides, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you expect.
Yeah, of course, because Andy Wing hasn't been there for a great deal of time. That was his 6th game in charge. Mentioned, I mean, they beat us pretty comfortably because we had 75% of the ball and we did absolutely nothing with it. So, enjoy your 3-0 win. We never beat Barrow anyway. Well, especially at their place. But a pleasing result for Cheltenham nonetheless. I don't think there's really much we say. More possession, more shots, and they're pretty good at home. We mentioned Crewe goalless at Gillingham. I don't know what to make of this. I think Crewe finished the game with 10 men again. I saw Lee Bell's post-match after Wimbledon, and how upset with the referee was. It's never a red card. And, when they lost in the game in which they lost 3-0 at Wimbledon, I think that's never a red card for me. And he was really quite passionate, and I really like what you have to say. It was really refreshing. It doesn't do. I don't think it. Well, maybe the fact that they finished with 10 men. They finished with 10 men. It might be all right, but then you look at Gillingham, who are woefully out of form and hadn't won in God knows how long. There's maybe that side to it. I'm torn on this one because I think there's pros and cons to both, actually. Maybe a point in the road. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at bare minimum, it's as you say, point on the road. But at the same time, it's now 6 without a win, which is the bigger concern for me. And Gillingham, the way they're going at the minute, not quite to the extent of Tranmere, but they're in that kind of free fall phase. Not quite as bad as Tranmere, like I say, but they don't look like a side that could beat anyone as such. I mean, they obviously had probably the better chances in that game with the red card and that, but they're a side you'd hope you could put away. Which just for me, for that Crewe, that just makes that Barrow game even more pivotal. It's another chance against a side that is beatable. From a Gillingham perspective, well, again, it's a point. I still think they need any kind of win. just put the sword to someone, please. Do something useful.
11 games without a win and counting, and I've got Carlisle next.
Well, if you're gonna do it, that's got to be the time, right? Has to be. Absolutely has to be.
There's your chance. We'll touch on it too very quickly because Bromley beat Fleetwood 1-0. I probably expected Bromley to win this. Another goal for Michael Cheek. Another disappointing afternoon for Fleetwood. I'm not sure about playoffs now. I've been banging a drum for so long, yet it's still letting me down. Can they let me down next week? Because I get the honour of laughing. That'd be great. And I also saw that Harrogate beat Swindon 1-0. As I said to Kieran, it just felt like a very Harrogate result for one reason or another. And it's a pretty big one in the sense of, it sort of eases them out of the relegation picture a tad bit. They're certainly not out the clear yet, but it's 3 points. It's 3 points closer. Anything you just want to add from those two? I mean, look, Swindon lost for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They was unbeaten in 6. They won 4 of them. So, I think they're running the edge sooner. But as I said, it just felt like a Harrogate result. Anything just quickly to take from both those games?
Just that it's a big result for Harrogate, really. It's not one I'd have predicted personally. So fair play for getting that one right. I wouldn't have predicted Harrogate to end Swindon's run, but fair play. It's any win where you can at that end, and that's what they've done. With the Bromley game, again, fair play. It's just solid, keeps them back on track. And I don't see the whole Fleetwood playoff thing. I'm sorry, I could never see it. I still don't see it. They're too inconsistent. It's not happening.
I just thought there was a chance a couple of weeks ago, but maybe I was just being blindsided with maybe their squad and their manager. That might have been that. As for Bromley, look, they're still very much in this. They're not going away as such, but they've still got a bit of ground to make up. It's certainly not out of the question yet. Good win for them. We'll probably wrap it up there. A couple of games in the week to come. Some are big of quite a bit importance. I think you look at Fleetwood, AFC Wimbledon. It's big for Wimbledon. It's a big game for Morecambe and for Doncaster when they play each other. And you got Notts and Colchester. I think Colchester are building, and then you've got Notts there at home as well. Who want to right some wrong. Right some wrongs. What is that? Is that the saying? I don't know, but they certainly want to make things right after the Port Vale defeat. But right, okay, I might have dropped a little bit of a clanger here. Just going back through the recording, and it struck me that I didn't mention the Carlisle Colchester game. Look, it finished 0-0. So it's not like there's any really goals to talk about. It looked like a game in which goalkeepers on top. There was an unreal save I saw from Gabe. Is it Gabe Rees? Gabe Rees. In particular, which was well, it was unreal, wasn't it? It was it certainly looked like one of the saves of the season. But I think maybe for Colchester, it's a point on the road. Maybe disappointed that they hadn't come away with all three. I think probably in Carlisle's predicament. Of course, it was Mark Hughes' first home game in charge of Carlisle. I mean, it's a point for them, I think, but they're at a point now, I think, where I think they need wins. I think Colchester were always going to be a tough nut to crack. So, I mean, I think they've got their goalkeeper mainly to thank for the fact that they've got a point out of it. But yeah, it looks like they've got a few games at home coming up. But I don't think it's the worst point in. Well, it's an interesting one, because I think maybe for Colchester, I think you may be a tad bit disappointed that you haven't gone there and got 3 points with how poor Carlisle have been, to be quite honest. But maybe look, Mark Hughes' home game in charge. I mean, it's a point on the board for Carlisle, but I'm still under the impression that I think they need more than just 1 point at the minute. I think they need, they need 3 points. They need to do that a few more times on a little bit of a more consistent basis, especially with these run of games that they've got coming up at home. Yeah, just thought I'd mention it whilst I'm at it. There you go. There's just some of that game from just me, though. Yeah, cool. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for listening. Of course, make sure to comment down below what you thought of your team. If you probably agreed with us, you probably not. It's an interesting one on Luke's behalf, probably, with some of the MK discussions. Of course, make sure
comments.
It'll be a fun read later. Any more for Luke is Clueless? That'd be great. Make sure you like, subscribe. We'll be back in a week for a bit of a preview, run through the games that took place in the week, and as well as look at next week's action. And we'll see you there.